You're in a scene. It's going fine. Then your scene partner says a line and you open your mouth to respond and there's nothing. Absolutely nothing. Your improv brain is a blank, a white, empty room. Maybe some of the advice you've always heard is just say something, whatever comes to your mind next. And maybe that advice is the reason you're stuck in the first place. You need some specifics or a process to find that next thing. That feeling of your mind shutting down or going blank on stage is horrible. And if you felt it, you're not alone. It's usually a top 5 fear for any performer. Today, you'll hear one process for actively working through this feeling. I'm going to give you a simple 3-step system to effectively reboot your brain when it crashes out while performing. This isn't about being clever or a better thinker or thinking fast on your feet, because we don't really want to think in improv, do we? This is a technique that works with your biology, not against it, to get you painlessly back into the scene. Hi, and welcome to Your Improv Brain. I'm Jen DeHaan, and I've taught and coached improv with several schools, and I release improv resources at improvupdate.com. I also run Stereo Forest, which specializes in improvised comedy, audio drama series, and podcast production. I especially love developing characters and shows, and I love improv and sharing my love of it here on this show. So back to today's topic and a really important question. What happens if you try this 3-step system I'm about to drop into this episode and you're still stuck? What's the safety net? What's that final thing you can do? And I'll answer that question by the end of this episode. In a recent episode, I talked about one way to always have stuff to draw from, ready to add into a scene, or to create a new relatable character on the spot. And I'll link that episode in the description and the show notes. And even while having a bunch of inspiration ready to go, like I explained in that episode, can reduce the chances of your mind going blank while you're performing, it can still happen. So let's talk about why your brain goes blank. It's not a personal failing. It's not a sign that you're bad at improv or don't have those ideas or references to draw from. It's often an issue of what's called cognitive load. You can think of your brain kind of like a computer, and right now, it has too many programs running all at once. So think about it. You're trying to listen to your scene partner. You're trying to remember the rules of improv. You're aware of the audience watching you. Maybe those stage lights are hot, or there's a weird smell in the room. Maybe you had a terrible day at work, even before you got to the theater, or someone is fake eating really loud on stage and you cannot hear anything else right now. Your brain is trying to process everything all at once today, right now. And just like a laptop with too many of those resource-intensive, buggy, creative applications open, it crashes. You experience a system freeze, and this is completely normal. It's a biological response to being overwhelmed above threshold. So this is something that happened to me quite regularly when I was teaching dance fitness. This might seem unrelated to improv, but it's pretty much the same idea when I was performing on stage. And it happened often because there are a few more variables that you hit more often in dance fitness performance. There's music, there's lights, there's heat, there's any aches and pains, there's upsets before the class started perhaps. And why it was so common is the people in front of me. I had to have focus on what was happening in the room with the participants, which is kind of like an audience, because I was responsible for their safety on top of everything else I had going on. And that would cause my brain to go blank about the choreo and the cues sometime if I was already close to that threshold. If I was thinking about if someone was comfortable and safe over there and, what am I doing with my feet and my arms and the words? What is the next piece of choreo? And this was so common. I had to have equivalent systems, kind of like the one I'm about to describe in this episode. I had to have them on hand. But I kind of knew what days I was more likely for this to happen. And this was always due to hitting some threshold in my brain. And the moves and the things I knew backwards and forwards just wouldn't drop into place. And my body and brain had to just do something else. This is biology. It's not a character flaw. It's not your failure. You know improv. You just didn't receive anything in that particular moment, and that's okay. Now, before we get into the 3 steps to reboot your brain, there's one similar case that we should address first, because sometimes your mind is blank on how to respond because you genuinely didn't understand or hear what your scene partner just said. Or maybe you feel like you're missing some important subtext that they dropped. In this situation, the fix is simple. Just ask your scene partner in character. If they say something confusing, you can respond as your character and say, "Sorry, what was that? The spaghetti factory is so loud." Or, "Wait, what did you mean by that, Brenda?" This is always allowed. It not only helps you, but it also helps clarify the scene for the audience, who might be just as confused as you are about the subtext or an inferred meaning that might have been there, or maybe it wasn't. They might not have seen the facial expression from where they're sitting in the audience, or maybe it was too loud in the room. Or if it's me, I'm just really bad at subtext sometimes or most of the time because I'm autistic. And as a side note, in this case, in improv, you can also add what you inferred into the scene. And guess what? They got a yes and that, even if it's not exactly what they meant. Improv. It's one of the reasons why I'm more comfortable on stage than off it, but that's a different episode. Okay. So let's say that's not the case. You heard them, you understood them, and still nothing came to mind. Your mind is blank. Everything just dropped out. So before you do anything else, step 0, bonus step, and the most important thing to do is to just pause and take a breath. Pausing is okay. In fact, pausing is good. We do it all the time in real life. People pause to think. They pause when they're emotional. It's a human thing to do. So let's first get comfortable with the idea that a pause adds to your character. It adds richness. It's not a rookie move or something unacceptable. It's actually very good improv. It's good acting and good character work since it's human and it's very relatable. The key is to just stay in character while you do it. Just stand there as your character and breathe. If something is available to you, you could even make like a small emotional sound, like a sigh or a little laugh, or a physical reaction like rubbing your temples. But if you're doing nothing, that's okay too. Just stay present with your character. Okay. So you've taken that pause. Maybe that alone will work, or maybe not. So now let's reboot. And here are the 3 steps. Step 1, focus outwards. When your mind is blank, it's almost always because you're focused inward on like your own panic. You're thinking, "Oh no, I have nothing. They're all looking at me and I'm failing." The first step is to break that inward spiral and force your attention outwards. Look at something, anything outside of your own head. Look at your scene partner's face. Really look at it. Look at that shirt that they're wearing. Look at an imaginary object in the room, a couch, a window, a painting on the wall. Pick one thing and put all of your focus on that. Then you can simply comment on it. Like looking at your partner, you could say, "You look exhausted." Or looking at that imaginary couch, you could say, oh, this is an old couch. And that's it. That's step one. Forcing your brain to observe and state a very simple physical reality. You can yank yourself perhaps out of that internal panic spiral. And you might find this is enough to just bring yourself and bring your brain back online. But if you're still feeling a little bit blank or a little bit shaky, you can move to step two. So step two is the emotional reaction. You focused on that object, this old couch. The next step is to ask yourself one simple question. How does my character feel about that couch? Or how does my character feel about my scene partner's expression in this moment? Then you just respond with whatever you're feeling. So you might have said, oh, God, this old couch. Your emotional reaction could be, I love, so how comfortable it is. Or it could be, I can't believe your mother left this thing to us in her will. If you commented on your partner that they look exhausted, your emotional reaction could be, I'm exhausted too. What this does is instantly generate a relationship and a point of view for your character. You're not just two talking heads on a stage. You're two people who have a shared feeling about whatever thing it is in your environment or in your immediate presence. This immediately deepens the scene and it connects you back into what's happening right now. Now, if you've done that and you still feel a little bit stuck in the scene, there is a step three. So let's move on to that one now. Step three, make a related statement or ask a question. Use that emotional reaction you just did to throw the ball to your scene partner. This gives you another moment to breathe and gets them involved in building the next piece of the scene with you. So let's go back to our examples for a second. If you said, I love how comfortable this old couch is, you could follow up with a statement like, we should never get rid of it. Or you might ask, think we could find another one like it for the cabin or something? If you said, I'm exhausted too, maybe you could then say, we should sell the business. Or ask, perhaps we need to take a break and maybe get the dogs out to the beach. Now, I know many of us are taught early on in our improv training, don't ask questions, just don't ask. But that rule is often misunderstood. It's meant to stop us from asking open-ended questions that put all of the work onto our scene partner, like, where are we? Or what are we doing? Or who are you? These are the kinds of questions that we're talking about that are open-ended. But the ones here that I'm suggesting are different. These are questions that add something new to the scene. They add information or they denote a desire or a little bit of a brief new direction. They help you and they help the scene because they're behaving a little bit more like statements than questions. So these kind of statement-like questions are absolutely fine. And also, you're just trying to get the scene back. So even if they aren't statement-like, just do what's going to work for you in this moment. The other benefit of this whole three-step process is it can give the scene a bit of a rest. If you're in a fast-paced game or in a dense narrative, taking a moment to do this can pause the action while adding a new dimension of character or emotion into the scene. And when you return to that game or return to the narrative, it will be richer because of this little scenic detour. This, again, is just plain old good improv. And this system is really similar to what I've used in dance fitness classes, the ones I mentioned earlier near the beginning of this episode. I taught myself to automatically kick into some move for everyone to follow. It was the wrong move, but I kicked into it and I would admit to the room that we were doing the wrong choreo. Because sometimes the choreography came even with a blank mind, but if it didn't, this system took over, and I had a set of moves that almost always worked, no matter what the music was. And I just start doing one of them and focus on admitting that we were doing the wrong move while laughing. And during that moment, I'd refocus, I'd relax. People would laugh from my admission of doing the wrong thing. And those things would always cause my brain to reconnect to the class and the music, and everything would somehow return. And guess what? The people in the room loved those moments the best, including me. So that's it. That's the 3-step system. Focus outward, find your emotional reaction, and then make a statement or ask a good question. And in a second, I'll give you one more tip if your mind is still blank after this process. But first, if this video was helpful, I'd love for you to click like on it so I know to keep making these things. Share it with improvisers you know that also might find it useful. And I have a lot more videos and resources at improvupdate.com and a Discord community where we chat about doing improv and teaching improv and coaching it too. So join us there and leave a comment on YouTube or in the Discord about what's the one external thing that you always seem to notice or point out while you're in a scene. Is it their hair? Is it the dog? So now let's answer the question that I posed at the start of this episode. What happens if you go through all 3 of these steps and your mind is still blank? What's the final safety net? And the answer is pretty simple. It's your scene partner. We have all been there. Every single improviser, from people doing their first class to people who are 20 years in. We've all had days where life is just overwhelming. And if someone hasn't ever had this happen to them, they're probably just lying, or they're not human like us. But regardless, your scene partners are there to have your back, no matter what. They have absolutely been in this exact position before. If you have a scene partner who is experienced or someone you know really well, and you've done a ton of scenes with them, sometimes all it takes is a look, a quick glance that says, "Help, I'm lost." And they will, just like you, know what that look is because they've experienced it in the past. They'll take the lead. They'll make a strong offer. They'll add some more detail. They'll ask your character a question they know you can answer to get you back into the scene. They will carry that scene out until you can get back on your feet. That trust is the final and most important safety net that we have in improv. You're not up there alone. We all have each other's backs. So thanks for tuning in, and I'll be here next Monday for the next episode. Bye for now. You have been listening to Your Improv Brain, a Stereoforest production. This show is created and is written, edited, and produced by Jen Hahn of Stereoforest.com. You can find show information, show notes, transcripts, and contact information at the show's page at stereoforest.com/improvbrain. Thanks for listening.